Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Freight in the City webinar, focusing on the Portsmouth Clean Air Zone. In line with other UK cities such as Bath and Birmingham, Portsmouth is launching a clean air zone next week to improve air quality for those who live and work in the area. It's therefore vitally important that you understand how the zone will affect your fleet. We're delighted, therefore, to have Portsmouth City Council joining us today to give you all the need-to-know information about the Clean Air Zone and answer any specific questions you may have. We're also joined by a knowledgeable lineup of speakers to guide and inspire you when it comes to improving the sustainability of your operation. I'd like to say a huge thank you to our webinar partner, Scania, for supporting today's event and sharing their vehicle expertise when it comes to clean technology for the HGV bus and coach sector. So, let's get started with the morning's agenda. You'll hear in turn from each of our speakers, which will then be followed by a live Q&A session where we'll post your questions directly to the panel. You can ask your questions at any time during the webinar by typing them in to the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. When doing so, please specify who your question is for, as that's really helpful. Today's webinar will be recorded and we'll be hosting it on freightingthecity.com the following day. So by the end of tomorrow, it should be live for you to go back to if you want to refer to it again or share it with a colleague. Okay then, let me introduce our first speaker of the day, who's going to give us an overview of the Clean Air Zone scheme and some of the wider air quality initiatives in Portsmouth. I'd like to hand over to Hayley Trower, Air Quality Improvement Manager, Transport, Environment and Business at Portsmouth City Council. Thank you, Hayley, over to you.
Thanks, Hayley. I'll just share my screen as I've got some slides to share with you all. They might take a couple of seconds to come up. So as Hayley says, I'm Hayley Trower. I'm from Portsmouth City Council and I work in the Transport Department. My team are responsible for delivering a package of measures to improve air quality in the city. We have been given a ministerial direction by central government requiring us to make improvements to air quality in the shortest possible time. There are a number of cities around the country who've been given these legal directions. This happened in the last few years following the central government being taken to the High Court by a legal firm called Client Earth. And this is because the country are continuing not to meet legal targets for reducing air pollution. So in Portsmouth, we've got 5 air quality management areas, and these areas have been set up because they have high levels of nitrogen dioxide pollution. Over the years, we've done loads of work to try and reduce air pollution in the areas, in these 5 areas and across the city, but it's just not enough. For those of you familiar with the city, it's a very compact city with kind of Victorian terrace streets, narrow roads. So as you can imagine, our main roads are busy, they're congested, and the air pollution collects there. And some of you might also be aware Portsmouth is an island. There's only 3 road links on and off. So the roads we do have, everything's going down those roads. So you can see why we have air pollution problems. So yeah, the ministerial directions we've been issued, they are in addition to the 5 air quality management areas that we have. There are 2 locations in particular that these ministerial directions have been issued for. Those are the 2 red dots on the map. I'm not sure if you can see them, hopefully you can, but they're both on the A3. So it's the A3 Alfred Road and the A3 Commercial Road North. This is a strategic road link. It's the road that links up to the city centre and through to the Isle of Wight ferry terminal. So you can see it's a really important road for the city, and as a result it does have a high volume of freight traffic, coach traffic, everything traffic. It's a really busy road. what we've done is we've looked at a range of measures that could reduce air pollution in these two locations in particular. Unfortunately, because of the strategic nature of this road, it's really difficult. It's not one of those roads where we can just say to people, oh, could you think about cycling for your trip? Or, well, how about you don't make as many trips? Or could you catch the bus? It's not really going to work because we still need to get freight along those roads, and we still need to get coaches to all of the tourist destinations that are down there. So we've tried everything. We did a series of technical studies, including capturing the number plates of vehicles that were going through there, so we know exactly what the composition of the fleet looks like. We put it all into a transport model and an air quality model, and just none of the non-charging measures were shown to be effective enough to reduce air pollution enough to bring it into legal limits. So that's left us with the charging zone. I should say at this point that the charging clean air zone is not Portsmouth City Council's preferred choice to reducing air pollution, but it's kind of where we are. As I said, we've looked at all the other measures, and the only thing that seems to work is charging. So the zone on the map, you can see the zone will cover a small area in the city centre of Portsmouth. We've tried to make it as small as possible without causing traffic to reroute elsewhere. Our zone is not charging all vehicle types. We're a bit stuck by the legislation. So the Clean Air Zone legislation set by central government sets out which vehicles you can charge. There are different classes for Clean Air Zone. So ours is a Class B. That means that non-compliant buses, coaches, taxis, private hire vehicles and heavy goods vehicles will be issued with a daily charge for driving in the zone. Our charges in Portsmouth are £50 a day for non-compliant heavy goods vehicles, buses and coaches, and £10 per day for private hires and taxis. By non-compliant, it's the same as the other clean air zones in the country. It means those that are not Euro 6 standard if diesel or Euro 4 if petrol. As I said, we're not charging private cars, vans or motorbikes, and that's because all of our technical work has shown that a Class B CAS is sufficient to achieve compliance with legal limits in the shortest possible time. So that's what I was saying earlier about we're a bit stuck by the legislation about what we can and can't charge. Because the Class B is shown to work, government have deemed that it's not required for us to go and charge cars on top of that. So as I said, the clean air zone is kind of not Portsmouth City Council's preferred approach, but we are where we are. So we've been doing lots of other things to improve air quality in the city. This is just a short list of what we've been doing. My colleague Stanley will be able to tell you more about the Clean Air Fund in a minute, but the purpose of that fund is to support those who will need to pay the clean air zone charge. We've been giving grant funding for them to replace or retrofit vehicles so that they don't have to pay the charge, and they're also doing their bit to improve air pollution in the city. I think that's it from me. So I'll hand over to Stanley, I think now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hayley. That's great. Thank you. If you could stop your screen sharing. Stanley, if you'd like to pop your camera and microphone on, that would be great. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. I'm afraid I don't have as polished slides as Hayley, my manager, does, but yes, I am the Air Quality Engagement Officer for HGVs for Portsmouth City Council. So I work within Hayley's team to specifically work with HGV operators to help them with the introduction of the CAS. A large part of my role is based around administering the clean air funds that Hayley briefly touched upon. So for buses and coaches and HGVs, that's about £16,000 per vehicle. Originally, when applying for grants and discussing with central government and the funding body, we applied for 50 grants. We administered this in 3 rounds. So in each round, we'd have a scoring criteria. We'd allow people to apply. We'd score them based on, for example, their proximity to the clean air zone, how frequently they travelled within Portsmouth City Council's clean air zone, how much turnover the company had, so that we'd be best able to assist smaller businesses who might not have the liquidity necessary to replace their vehicles as part of the introduction of Euro 6 vehicles into the clean air zone. Following that, we then had a second and third round. So rounds 1 and 2 were kind of fixed periods with cut-off dates. Round 3 has been open-ended to make sure we administer grants to as many eligible businesses and individuals as possible. We had such success in round 3 that we ended up allocating all 50 grants, and we still had continuing interest from applicants who still scored really highly. So, you know, they may be smaller operators such as scaffolders or small independent businesses locally. The prime demographic we'd really like to assist. Again, as I said before, not having the ability to replace the vehicles off their own backs, and who would most likely have some operational issues associated with paying the £50 charge. So following this, we made an appeal to JACU, which is the joint body between DEFRA, who handle environmental issues, and the DFT. And they were kind enough to allocate us an additional 20 grants. We do still have a handful of grants, so if you believe you may be affected by the Clean Air Zone and you're a frequent user and may struggle to replace your vehicles, it is worth applying, but there only are a couple left. So it's definitely worth getting that in quicker and with as much evidence as possible. So as part of the grant application process, we ask for evidence such as frequency of trips, your V5, and sometimes invoices just as a backup for that frequency of trips. Following that, once we've found you to be eligible, we send a acceptance letter and a T's and C's, just outlining how the process works. And then it is on the operator to find a vehicle. We appreciate that at the moment, the vehicle market following COVID-19 and the international transistor shortage is quite volatile. So this has not been as smooth sailing as, for example, Birmingham or Bath's vehicle purchase. But we are finding that our operators are having some luck and are being very proactive in finding new vehicles, mostly secondhand, sort of 16 to 18 plates tends to be the main demographic. In addition to paying out the grants, we've also worked with some of the larger fleets such as Royal Mail and DHL, and they've been able to rotate their vehicles. So where they're operating larger fleets, they've been able to put some of their Euro 6 vehicles on their Portsmouth routes that would otherwise go through the CAS. Ultimately, these 16 grand grants are for replacement and retrofitting. We found that HGV drivers have tended to trend more towards retrofitting. Not retrofitting, they tended more towards replacement, whereas buses and coaches have trended more towards retrofitting, just based on their operational needs. So following the increase in the grants, we've been able to assist far more small businesses who are much more likely to have issues replacing their vehicles. But this has covered a wide range of industries. This isn't limited to just freight. We've had scaffolders, breweries, food suppliers, very small construction firms, lots of family-run businesses. So these grants are kind of a direct investment into Portsmouth's local economy, as well as facilitating a transition to improving air quality. Now, moving forward, I can confidently say for HGVs, but also this applies to coaches and private hire vehicles. We're looking at, in the long term, in addition to the Clean Air Zone, promoting anti-idling methods, so improving driver behaviour, and also focusing on consolidation of routes where possible, or clever vehicle management. So, for example, if a fleet operates compliant vehicles and non-compliant vehicles, seeing if there is a transition point where they can do last mile delivery using a compliant vehicle. This is both beneficial in terms of clean air, but also for operators' operational costs often. I think that's everything I have to say. Hayley, you happy for me to hand over?
Yes, no, that's perfect. Thanks, Stanley. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're going to ask Colin Smith, who's the Programme Manager for Freight and Clean Vehicle Retrofit at the Energy Saving Trust, to come and present. Thanks, Colin. Over to you.
Hi, Hayley, and welcome everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this Portsmouth Clean Air Zone webinar. Colin Smith of the Energy Saving Trust, working on freight and clean vehicle retrofit. So I'm covering two angles here, the clean vehicle retrofit accreditation scheme and the freight portal. There are two sort of emissions related challenges within transport. One relates to fuel efficiency and greenhouse gases, the carbon dioxide aspect, but also the air quality impact of particulates and NO2 and NOx. Some consider one to be longer term and one to be here and now. We're seeing these clean air zones, ultra low emission zones, low emission zones are popping up. But in fact, they're both here and now and both commercial issues. If you reduce your fuel consumption, you'll save money. If you're running cleaner vehicles, you'll save money. So what are your options to comply? Avoiding the zone, accepting and paying the charge, rearranging your fleet. So obviously avoiding the zone is not possible if you're actually sort of working within it. Accepting and paying the charge, that might be a problem if you are every day going into the zone. And rearranging your fleet becomes difficult as more clean air zones come around. You can buy a new compliant vehicle, and by new, you can be a Euro 6 second-hand or a brand new vehicle. Or you can retrofit, and that's where the clean vehicle retrofit scheme comes in. When you're looking at what's right for retrofit, you've got to look at the replacement cost, the service life remaining in your vehicle, the CAS fees that will be charged, the retrofit cost, and the resale value. And in essence, you'll come up with either do I replace the vehicle or do I retrofit the vehicle? Within the scheme, we have supplier requirements and performance requirements. And if a supplier meets both of those, then they get on the approved list and then they're eligible for funding and grants. On the supplier side of things, we want to make sure that the company continually produces product that works. They have quality management systems in place, they have insurances in place if things go wrong, and warranty provision. And in general, the performance requirements, they're the technical requirements for the system. So making sure that they actually reduce the emissions by the amount we want. Obviously, we have buses, coach systems for coaches, systems for HGVs. So the bus test is that an approved supplier will test a bus over this representative bus cycle. And this is not just an engine test, this is a full vehicle test. And we've got fairly good coverage of the UK bus market with retrofit systems that have been approved. Coaches, again, a representative drive cycle here. And again, we are seeing increases in coach systems being available. There are limited sort of chassis engine makes out there, but lots of coach builder models. And it's not a case that every single type of model of coach needs to be tested. We can extend the approval to cover the base vehicle. In terms of HGV and van approvals, this has been slightly slow because the uptake is, well, these vehicles can be expensive, but also the market in terms of defining what is needed is not quite defined as well. So smaller vehicles will probably be replaced, larger vehicles will probably be retrofitted, and the more specialist vehicles will be needed to be retrofitted. So that's what we have available for HGV and vans. Just a reminder on the way that vehicles are recognised. So the manufacturers issue certificate installation certificates and a log, and they send that installation log to us at Energy Saving Trust. We collate it and then we upload it to the vehicle checker database. So that's how we currently, without the DVSA vehicle inspection regime at the moment, that's how we get vehicles recognised within a CAS. And in essence, the Clean Air Vehicle Checker looks at, now we've got Bath, Birmingham, Bradford, Greater Manchester and Portsmouth there. And in essence, on the left-hand side, that's the certificate and the information that's required when a vehicle has been retrofitted. And that's the information that we kind of upload into the portal. So that covers the Clean Vehicle Retrofit Accreditation Scheme. The other aspect is that we're trying to help operators of HGVs and freight operators decarbonise. So we've set up what we call the Freight Portal, and this is helping operators reduce emissions and costs. The portal was originally launched in 2018, but we decided it needed a bit of a refresh. So this just this summer gone, we decided to sort of refresh it a bit. It's funded and supported by Department for Transport. We deliver it in partnership with the Zemo partnership. And in essence, there's a need to raise the profile of freight transport decarbonisation amongst operators and what they can do easily and simply. And also there's this voluntary commitment by the industry to reduce by 15% their GHG emissions from a 2015 baseline to 2025. So, and we also have obviously the trade bodies, Logistics UK, Road Haulage Association, and others promoting this portal. So what does the portal look like? So we've got obviously a new brand, and hopefully you'll see these let's say logos around the place in your daily workings, as it were. I think they're even being promoted on motorway service truck stops. And what's on the portal? The content there. So there's information and guides to help reduce emissions and save fuel, save money. There's case studies, and the aspiration is to get a good set up library of relevant case studies that demonstrates the benefit of taking action. So if you do have a story that you want to promote, then get in touch, and perhaps we can formulate a case study to be put on the portal. There's also links to all the fleet support schemes that are out there. So this is kind of a knowledge hub rather than a single source of information. So there's quite a bit of information there with the support schemes. We have the ability to register for updates, but something that we've included is a fuel cost cutter sort of tool. So I already reckon I'll go through that in the next slide. But there's also the ability to submit feedback. So we see this as an asset for the industry, not Energy Saving Trust's asset or DFT's asset. It's to try and help the industry help itself. In terms of the fuel cost cutter, this is a pretty simple, high level tool to help you see what you can save in terms of fuel consumption, cost of fuel, and GHG emissions. In essence, you put some fairly high level information about your vehicle, how far you go, what type of vehicle you're running, what kind of environment you're running in, long haul, etc., urban. And then you can pick an intervention like driver behavior or optimizing your tires or route and aerodynamics, and it will come up with an estimate on how much fuel cost you can save. That's it. Thanks for your attention. I think there might be some questions at the end, but in essence, I'll end the show there.
Thanks, Colin. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
If you stop your screen sharing, perfect. And then if I can invite Tanya Neach, who's Head of Sustainability at Scania, to come on. Thanks, Tanya. Over to you.
Thanks, Hayley. Can you see my screen there? I'll take that.
Yeah, we're all good. We can see your screen and we can hear you. All good.
Lovely. Okay, brilliant. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar today. Thanks to Hayley and also to both Hayleys at Portsmouth as well for partnering with us to deliver this webinar. So my name is Tanya and I'm Head of Sustainability at Scania. And I'm responsible for our sustainability work. So this covers all aspects of what we're trying to deliver at Scania, whether that's our products and services, our footprint ourselves as a business, and also a new direction that we're leading is people sustainability as well. So one of my roles is that I actually work closely with our global team, and this is part of our business strategy. This is to ensure that we are really coordinated and really well informed here in the UK, and that we're really ready to interact with any demands that are being put on us as a business. So today I'm just here to talk about sustainability at Scania, what this is, why we're doing it, the approaches that we're taking, and also how this links to things like clean air zones, like the initiative that's about to go live in Portsmouth. Okay, so sustainability at Scania. So why are we doing this and what does it mean? So for Scania, sustainability is both about doing the right things. So this is, for us, it's delivering sustainable transport. And then it's also about doing things in the right way. So this is all about how we can be a responsible business and how we can be more sustainable. So when we look at those two streams and we discuss those two elements, we need to understand what those two different parts mean for us when it comes to sustainability. So firstly, I'll just talk about the top line. So this is sustainable transport. So this is what we're delivering to society. So this is our trucks, our buses and our coaches. Because sustainable transport is all about moving people and goods and how we can contribute towards the kind of whole bigger picture of the economic development and the social development within a town or city. And more importantly, this is all about making sure that we do this without jeopardising human health and that we consider safety and we consider the environment. And then our approach when it comes to sustainable transport is based on three really important pillars. I'll talk a little bit more about these later on in the slides, but these three pillars are energy efficiency, renewable fuels and electrification, and smart and safe transport. And then secondly, the next line down, you'll see responsible business. So this is doing the right things or doing things right. So while the core of what we do is to contribute towards society and it's around the transformation of transport, we still need to be responsible in our journey and how we get there. So for Scania, sustainability is all about how we operate our business. It's around our manufacturing. It's all about our employees and it's how we're conducting our business. So it's about being responsible and delivering value across all the value chains and in our relationships. And finally, so what do we hope this approach will deliver for us? So doing the right things for me, one for the business, is all about driven by partnership. So things like today, having these webinars discussing the initiatives like the clean air zones, it ensures that we really drive innovation and leadership in this change that's coming for the sector, because it's a big shift taking place here. And doing things right, so of course being a responsible business, we have our core values, we have continuous development. This allows us to grow as a business, but still at the same time ensuring that we are sustainable every step of the way. Now, the next slide, I will pull these pictures through quite quickly because there's a lot to take in here. But on the screen here, you'll see a number of initiatives that we've been doing over the last couple of years to deliver on our Drive and Shift strategy. So we've been launching some really exciting things. In the top corner there, you can see our NXT product. That is a bus by day, a refuse collection vehicle by night. It's a prototype that we launched back in 2019, quite exciting. It's also autonomous. We've also been doing some work on electric roads. So I don't know whether you've seen recently, there's been a new study that's been commissioned in the UK. That's following on the work that we've been doing in Germany. So that's looking at how we can electrify the roads to power trucks with catenary wires. So that's quite exciting. Quite important in the middle there, the science-based targets. So this is an initiative that Scania signed up to back in 2020. And we're quite proud that it was we were the first heavy-duty commercial vehicle manufacturer to sign up to these targets. I'll talk a little bit about those as well in a moment. Some other really interesting things on there that we've been doing in Australia with solar panels on trucks. We've had quite a lot of work in the UK with biogas as well. You can see there's a biogas bus there, and there's also biogas trucks there as well. And most recently as well, we've been doing quite a lot of work with partners for electrification. So Norfolk are a company that we have just partnered with to look at battery manufacture. They will be the world's cleanest battery cell manufacturer in Europe with a big gigafactory that we're involved in. Also in the bottom there, you can see that we've got a new partnership with a company called Energy and EV Box, and that's all around how we procure energy and how we install infrastructure for electric vehicles. So a lot happening in this space. So going back to our science-based targets, this is my area. This is what's been driving everything we've been working on in the last year and a half. So this is just a little bit on our targets and on what they actually mean. So I don't know if everyone on the floor is aware of what a science-based target is, so I'll explain a little bit about that. But essentially, it's an initiative that's been set up, a bit like a framework for businesses, and it allows you to work with the science for the 1.5 Paris Agreement and essentially set a limited carbon budget for your operation in your business and what you're doing. So like I said, we were the first heavy-duty commercial vehicle business to set these targets and to have them approved. So it's something that we're really, really proud of. And just looking at the targets there, I won't talk a lot about scope 1 and 2, but scope 3 is the most important one when it comes to our products and services. So this target actually relates to around 96% of the emissions that we produce. And it's a scope 3, so it's basically the emissions that come from our products when they are in service. So when we sell a bus or a truck or a coach and the vehicle hits the road, it's the emissions that vehicle then produces. It's a big area for us, and it's an area that we need to improve on. So just in terms of reaching those targets and looking at that 20%, so how are we going to get there and what work do we need to do with our customers to be able to reach this target? There's lots of different things underway, there's lots of things that we're working on and how we're going to do that. But mainly that's around, I would say 2 or 3 areas. So one of those is around creating more fuel efficient solutions. So using conventional engines, so upgrading to Euro 6, upgrading to our new powertrains, using less GHG emissions and being far more efficient in what we do. 2 is selling an increasing share of electrified vehicles, which is a really big task, but we're on the journey now and we're on our way there. And 3 is about finding those initiatives that can help us improve CO2 reduction, and that's from the conventional powertrain, but also from the electrified technology. An example of that could be the use of renewable fuels or powering electric vehicles with renewable energy. So just nipping back to the 3 pillars that I talked about earlier. So our approach to sustainable transport, which was one of the areas that I talked about in the beginning, is based on these 3 pillars. So what does that actually mean? So for us, this is the fact that there is no silver bullet. So for us, there is no one solution that's going to solve the problem, whether it comes to air quality or whether it comes to carbon reduction. There's lots of things now that we can start to do to make a difference right now, right today. So one of the messages that we took to COP26 of us last week is that we are ready. Our portfolio and our product range is sat waiting. There's lots of things that we can do with our customers today that we need to get on and get doing today. Obviously, electrification is part of that journey, but that again is part of the future as well. We do have our Scania modular system, so this provides us with a great start. We are looking at circular economy as well, so that's a big part of what we do as well. But you can see that sustainability is built on these pillars, and it's driving our direction and our movement forward of how we're going to focus our products going forward. I just wanted to do a little pitch on our electric truck range. So for those of you on the call, I don't know if you're aware, but last September we actually launched our electric truck range in the UK. So we do actually have now a battery electric truck and a plug-in hybrid electric truck that's available now. There's 2 different ranges for that truck available. There are 2 performance steps in those trucks. So we have a 5 battery and a 9 battery on the fully battery electric vehicle. The range of the 9 battery can be up to 250 kilometres. So there's definitely progress in this area. We do still have some challenges around charging infrastructure, but this product is based on an urban application. So it is looking at a back to base operation rather than the requirement for a public charging infrastructure. And then just a little bit on our electrification roadmap, because I think this is really important that people understand the pace that we're aiming for now and the ambition that we have in place. So if you look at the map on the screen there, we look to have approximately a total share with trucks and buses of around 10% in 2025 of all of our sales. And as we move forward into 2030, that share will be around 50% of our vehicles. So it's a huge shift and a complete change in everything we're doing going forward. I talked about renewable fuels, so this was a big message for us at COP, and again, like I say, it's part of how we solve today's issues. We are going to have probably a 5, 6, 7 year gap where we're going to need to use renewable fuels in our rolling fleet. There's lots of options available on the market today, and lots of these options are actually available in the current engines that we operate. So, for example, a drop-in diesel solution could be HVO. That's available in most Scania engines available on the road today, and you can see a saving of around 90% greenhouse gas emissions. These figures are based on European numbers, but in the UK we do have a slightly different way of working out the emissions reductions. As you can see, there's lots of options available. There's lots of work being done around the gas solutions available in the UK, and also blending with biodiesel is quite an interesting solution as well. So all of these are available today and are basically a way that you can immediately start saving when it comes to your emissions profile. So just a quick sum up of why I've talked a lot about sustainability and not so much about the clean air zone, but there are 4 drivers when it comes to sustainable transport, and these are the things that drive everything we do. So yes, one of those is congestion. So Hayley talked about this at the beginning. A lot of the reasons why we need clean air zones and a lot of the reasons why we need to change the way that we look at transport is down to congestion. So without looking at this piece, we won't solve everything we need to solve. Pollution, so air quality, big driver in sustainable transport, part of the clean air zone framework and the reason why we're here today. A big part of what Scania does globally is around energy security, so that's another one of our drivers. And then most importantly, it's around climate change. So for me, that is the biggest challenge that we have in front of us. But really the message here with these 4 drivers is that actually air quality and carbon go hand in hand. So for me, the clean air zone is the first step in the right direction for decarbonising road freight and buses and coaches. That's all from me, Hayley. I will just stop sharing.
Thank you, Tanya. That's great. Perfect. Thank you. So if I can invite Gareth Colwell to join us now. He's the marketing officer from Portsmouth International Port. He's going to share some details around some of the sustainability work that's been going on at the port. Over to you, Gareth. Thank you.
Thanks, Hayley. Well, I'll just share my screen. Okay, right. So hello, everyone. My name is Gareth, and yes, I'm marketing officer at Portsmouth International Port. One of my areas of specialism is our sustainability agenda. So I'm going to outline some of the reasons, some of the projects we've got to help us reach net zero and zero emissions. You may not know, but Portsmouth International Port is actually a municipal port, so we're owned by the people of Portsmouth. So we have an obligation to the city's residents that to ensure as we grow that we do so sustainably. So, okay, next slide. So, before we look at how we're going to get to reach net zero and zero emissions, I think it's worth answering a question we do get asked quite often, which is why is the port outside the clean air zone? Now, as Hayley outlined earlier, her and her team have done some extensive modelling to find out about the traffic flows around the city, to find out what would have the biggest impact on those 2 pollution hotspots. So as an island city, it was shown that the clear majority of the traffic coming to the port does not go through the city centre due to our location just off the M275. So including the port in the zone would have no impact in reducing pollution at those hotspots. In addition to that, we're actually governed by different government regulations. We come under Department for Transport as opposed to DEFRA, and we have our own extensive air quality and carbon reduction plan, which we've submitted to DFT last year. And our ambition is to become carbon neutral by 2030 and zero emission by 2050. And in addition to that as well, we've actually got our own air quality sensors on the port, which are currently showing that we don't actually breach any DEFRA guidelines when it comes to emissions. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot to do. As we grow, we need to look towards a net zero carbon future and look at how we can get to zero emissions by 2050 in line with the government's Maritime 2050 plan. So a little bit about the port. So as an island nation, ports are essential. 95% of the UK's port comes by trade comes by sea. We're the UK's most successful municipal port. We're also the statutory harbour authority, including the Canberra down in Old Portsmouth. We're classified as a major UK port by the Department for Transport. As a municipal port, we generally, on an average year, contribute £8 million directly back to council services. So the success of the port is heavily intertwined with the success of the city. We're currently investing £30 million in a ambitious transformation plan, and we've got a port master plan under development that will be revealed next year, although I will be able to give you a little taster of that later on in the presentation. We're also part of the Solent Free Port, along with Solent Gateway in Marchwood and the Port of Southampton's. The port itself is a customs site, and Dunsbury Park is a tax site. So so some exciting things to come from there as well. The port is also home to Portico, who are the international cargo terminal operator at the port. They're also owned by the council. Over 150 staff, 2 commercial quays, can handle sub-Panamax sized vessels, deep water access as well. It's the UK's largest fresh produce importer. The majority of the UK's bananas come through Portsmouth. But over the past few years, they've successfully diversified into a range of other commodities, including aggregates, break bulk, project cargo. So as you can see there, there's wind blades being loaded for Vestas. There was a load of steel rebar that came in recently, been doing quite a lot of grain over the last few weeks. So yes, they've really diversified into a load of different areas, and they've also helped with the container crisis, shifting containers onto feeder vessels and to go back to the continent to be consolidated to go back to the Far East. And they're also home to a comprehensive customs agency with many years of experience from dealing with fresh produce imports, but now also helping people navigate the issues and new regulations come up by the new UK EU trading arrangements. So just a very quick overview on key facts and stats. So 4.6 million passengers generally pass through the our statutory harbour area. So that includes to the Isle of Wight, as well as 2 million cross-channel, 300,000 freight lorries, 250,000 of which go cross-channel, over 1 million vehicle movements. We're the second largest cross-channel port, serving 4 ports in northern France and 2 ports in northern Spain. We're also 85% of the freight for the Channel Islands also comes through the port as well. So we're a key lifeline port for supplies to the Channel Islands. We've got direct motorway access, sheltered harbour, and we're close to the main shipping channel. So there's some really big opportunities for growth at the port going forward. So, as I mentioned, we've got big ambitions to reach net zero by 2030 and be the UK's first zero emission port by 2050. Below is a snapshot of some of the projects that we've got planned to help us reach those goals, but on the next few slides, I'll go into a bit more detail about them. So what have we already done? So across the port, we've already made some great progress. All the lighting across the port has been replaced by LED, which gave us an over 60% carbon savings, one of the biggest things that we could have done, and now that is fully complete. I've seen a massive reduction in energy use across the port. Our terminal building, which is now nearly 10 years old, it's been classed as very good under the International Environmental BREEAM standard, and still is one of the most sustainable public buildings in the UK. We use seawater heat transfer pump for the heating, seawater flushing in the toilets, and has wind captures for ventilation. And the forthcoming terminal extension for cruise passengers will be built to the same standards. We've got a new sustainable link span at Berth 4, which was partly funded by a European grant, which basically everything that could have been done to it to make it more sustainable was done. It uses higher quality steel, so it lasts for 10 years longer than a standard link span. It has soft start motors, LED lighting, so everything on that means it will last for longer and be more sustainable. We've got solar arrays already in place on the port. We've got a dual chemistry battery, which was funded by Innovate UK, which you can see in the middle there. So it's a dual chemistry battery, but it's actually powered, it's controlled, sorry, by an artificial intelligence. So it's machine learning capabilities can judge when the most peak generation is from the solar arrays, it captures that and then releases it without really any human interaction. So that's currently under test within the port in partnership with a number of partners nearby. We've got air quality sensors across the port, These were built by a local firm called Barter for Things. They use LP WAN technology, so they don't actually have to have a SIM card in to report back. So they created a similar thing for the local water company to detect leaks. So we use the same network. We now have 5 of them across the port. You can see in the map in the top corner there, they're located at various locations, so we can get a real build up a real picture of how air quality is around the port. And you know, once the plan is for that data to be publicly available in future. Electric port vehicles are now in place. We've got a fleet of Nissan EV200 vans for the maintenance team. So it's taken out their diesel vans from before. We've got 2 car chargers now for the public and 4 for staff, and definitely seen a shift with people moving towards electric cars. Those 4 spaces are pretty full now at the port on a regular basis. So, but with projects underway, so next year, starting off with, we've got a massive expansion of solar generating capability planned, which is being working with our colleagues at the energy services team at the council. So it involves solar carports, which you can see down in the bottom left hand corner there. So that will be upgrading the solar arrays across all other areas of the port. So we should be able to generate up to 1 megawatt of solar energy across the port, and there'll be associated battery storage with that. So they'll be able to harness that energy again and release that later when we need it. We've got a hydrogen electrolyzer being installed at the port. We were successful in combination with the University of Portsmouth with the Clean Maritime Call. So the government backed project there. So a 35 kilowatt hydrogen electrolyzer will be installed at the port, powered by solar, so it'll be green hydrogen, and it will power a modified workboat to test how the hydrogen can be used as a marine fuel. So a 99% hydrogen, 1% diesel mix. There's a schematic there of the engine itself. So it's an adapted diesel engine. So, but obviously having that capability on site and testing it means that potentially we could then use hydrogen for other purposes in future, including potentially for HGVs, if that's a route that people take when it comes to moving to zero carbon. Over at Portico, in this transition phase, they've been working with a local firm called Delta Zero on diesel filtration for their cranes. You can see a picture of it there. Had some really impressive results when it comes to reducing particulates emissions from those cranes, and they've also switched to gas to liquid GTL fuel for other plant vehicles, which it's currently not economically viable to switch to a zero carbon option at the moment. Oh, sorry, and also I should not forget also that Brittany Ferries, our biggest customer, are they've got 2 new ferries starting 2022 and 2023, which are LNG powered, so much cleaner, still fossil fuels, but again emissions wise a lot less emissions. And then they've got 2 LNG battery hybrid ferries starting in 2024 and 2025, which can operate on battery power when in port. So yeah, so that's another massive investment there for the port. So what's on the horizon? So we're hoping with all the battery generation, the solar generation capability and the battery storage we have, we should be able to then provide shore power for smaller cruise vessels without having our electricity supply upgraded to the port. One of our oldest customers, Renewable, have agreed to retrofit 2 of their existing ships to shore power, so they will be able to switch their engines off while in port. We've got planning applications in for wind turbines across the port. And we are now scoping out investment in larger scale electric or carbon zero powered cargo handling equipment at the port. And one of the potential options we want to look at is potentially hydrogen for the trailer tugs that we use across the port, which can use the hydrogen that we generate from the electrolyzers. That'll be this next step forward from using it to test the marine engine. And Portico want to go down a similar route as well. And more EV charging points for passengers' cars while they're waiting to go on the ships, and the new Brittany Ferries vessels as well will also have EV charging points available on them as well. And we're also looking at a particulate filtering project at the port boundary, working with the University of Portsmouth. It's kind of like a very advanced green wall. So green walls are great, but they need the rain to wash the residue off the leaves to continue working. With these, they'd work constantly and they'd be powered by wind or solar. So again, an experimental project, but something that we're keen to work on with our partners at the university. So I mentioned earlier about the Port's master plan. which will be revealed earlier next year. But as the audience today has got plenty of hauliers and fleet operators involved, I've been allowed to give you a little taster about one element of it, is that we would like to create a off-site port pre-gate facility. This would be similar to the inland port that the Port of Dublin have created, so on the outskirts, right on the outskirts of the city. So we're currently identifying sites that are very well connected to the major roads coming into Portsmouth. So again, that's the implication of that is it moves more traffic away from the city, and we can then maybe we're looking at low carbon or zero carbon options, then move that from the pre-gate facility into the port. So it'd be contained as unaccompanied freight, could be deposited there. And the plan is also to offer rest stops with high quality facilities for drivers at this pre-gate facility, so helping raise the bar for what's available nationwide, because this has been a very big issue that many drivers feel that the facilities available to them across the country are not of a high standard. So hopefully this will raise the standard and encourage other operators to increase the quality of the facilities on offer. And potentially we could offer renewable charging facilities or new fuels for HGVs in future at this potential pre-gate. So quite an exciting development for the port. So looking towards the future, so we want to be able to offer shore power at all of the berths at the port. So basically whenever any ship comes in, we'll be able to plug them in, they can turn their engines off. And most pressing one is to get 5 megawatts of energy to each of the 2 berths used by Brittany Ferries in time for their hybrid ferries in 24 and 25. But the big challenge is getting that amount of power to the port. If we tried to plug in everything we wanted to plug in now, we would black out Portsmouth. So there is a challenge there, and we are looking into how we deal with that. And also one of the other issues is that you don't need all that energy all the time, because you don't have ships in all the time. So there's a heavy load of peaks and troughs when you'll need to use that. So could have two ferries in, that's 5 megawatts each, a medium-sized cruise ship, that's another 10 megawatts. So we do think that the model that we're looking to go for when it comes to the smaller cruise ships is actually something that could potentially be scaled up. And with the advances in battery technology across the world at the moment, we could scale this up to be used on for the Brittany Ferries operation, and then potentially for the cruise ships as well, and help us avoid the issues with peaks and troughs. We could mainly generate our own electricity to store within it, and also sell it to the grid to help smooth out peaks and troughs in the grid as well. So that's a big focus for us, and we think that's potentially the way we solve this issue. But we also need to think about, if vessels convert to hydrogen or ammonia, do they still need shore power? So it's important that within the team, we're keeping an eye on all the developments within the industry to make sure that we've got skin in the game in every single potential new technology, so we're ready to run with it when there's a more wider decision made. But just to finalise, really, I think the graph here also demonstrates the financial reason why we need to reduce our carbon use as much as possible, because we are committed to net zero by 2030. And if we carry on the same level of carbon at the moment, to buy carbon credits to make us carbon net neutral, it would cost us £8 million a year by 2030, which would essentially wipe out the entire profit of the port. So the more that we can reduce carbon at the port now means basically the more profit that we have to reinvest back into the port and go back into the city. So there's a moral obligation, there's a financial obligation, but we're keen to get to the end of this and get to net zero and zero emission by 2050. Thanks.
Thank you, Gareth. That's fantastic. Thank you. That's it. If you can pop your camera off, and if I can invite Amanda Commander from Cade Group to come onto the screen. Just before we go on to the Q&A session, we're going to have a quick chat with Amanda, who's kindly agreed to come and share her experience of having worked with Portsmouth Council as a small operator to access some of the grant funding for their own fleet. So Amanda, if you'd like to join us. Pop your camera. Hi Amanda.
Hi there.
Hello. No, thanks so much for joining us today. So as I said, you've recently worked with the council and upgraded some of your fleet to comply with the Clean Air Zone. Firstly, can you just tell us a little bit about the lorries that you've needed to upgrade and what they're used for in your operation?
Okay, yes, my name's Amanda and I'm the finance manager at Cade Roofing and Building Services. We're a roofing and scaffolding specialist or company that are based in Portsmouth. We carry out work across Portsmouth and the south of England for various housing associations, councils and other construction companies. And we carry out projects that are further afield as well. We've got a fleet of 38 vehicles, which is made up of 11 lorries, the rest are vans and trucks. And earlier this year, we were made aware of the clean air zone in Portsmouth, and we needed to consider the impact that this was going to have on our vehicles when carrying out our work. And mid-April, we became aware of the Clear Air Fund grant. And as a result, we applied to replace 3 of our lorries. And we were delighted to be able to replace 3 of them by receiving 3 grants. And yes, we've replaced them not with brand new vehicles, but with 17 plate vehicles. Had we not been able to have these grants, then we wouldn't have been able to replace 3 vehicles.
Okay. And how straightforward was the process? What did you do when you first needed to access the funding?
To access it, first of all, we had to apply for the funding to upgrade the existing vehicles, and then we had to send in further information to support our claim. As Stanley said earlier, we needed to provide V5s and evidence that the vehicles that we were looking to change actually went through the clear air zone. We actually provided telematic reports and delivery notes to verify that we do enter into the zone, so we could go ahead and apply for the grants to be able to replace them.
Okay. And how helpful has this been for you as a small operator?
Oh, it's helped us a lot, because not just in Portsmouth, but sometimes we go up to London as well. We've got a job recently where we've been working up in Birmingham, so it's also helped us there. We've replaced 3 of them with Euro 6, 3 Euro 6 lorries. So obviously we're able to, it's opened it up for us as well.
And do you think it's made you a little bit more aware as an operator as well on the need to sort of future-proof the fleet? I think
it has. Yeah, not just with our lorries, but with our other vehicles as well. We now have like a couple of electric vehicles as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it's certainly opened our eyes.
It's been a good learning curve for you.
Yes, it has. And to be fair, with Portsmouth City Council, it was all dealt with very professionally. Stanley helped us, kept us notified as we went through the process. So yeah, we were absolutely delighted to be able to receive funding for 3 of them.
Oh, brilliant. No, thank you. No, thanks, Amanda. If I can ask you to stay on for the Q&A, because the operators, we might have some other operators on board that might have some questions for you. That would be brilliant. If I can ask all our other speakers to pop their cameras back on, if that's okay, and their microphones. We've got some questions coming through from the audience now. So we will kick off with who should we start with? Oh, we've got lots of questions here. Question for, well, let's have put some questions to Hayley and Stanley to start with. So a few details just around the implementation of the clean air zone. You spoke earlier about there being, obviously, there's some lead time issues and so on with obtaining new vehicles at the moment. Are there any exemptions, well, not exemptions, are there any sort of sunset or grace periods for anyone, for example, that might have vehicles on order that's experiencing a bit of a delay at the moment? What would your advice be to people in that situation? Hayley, do you want to tackle that one?
Thank you. Yeah, get in touch with us, contact Stanley. So you can contact us at Cleaner at Portsmouth. Search that on Google and you'll be able to find us. So yeah, we are giving sunset periods, so time limited exemptions, where you can provide evidence that the vehicles may be on order or your retrofit is booked, but due to issues outside of your control, so like Brexit, supply chain or COVID or whatever, it's not going to be ready in time for CAS launch. We have said, we've been publicising that we would like exemptions to have been in by the 15th to guarantee that they were processed in time for the CAS launch on the 29th. But if you've not been in touch with us us yet, please do get in touch in the next couple of days and we'll try and get it all processed before we launch.
Okay, thank you. Another question here, I don't know, one of you two, perhaps Stanley or Hayley, can you advise where the funding for operators came from for replacement or retrofit in Portsmouth? Was it central funding, which the council helped with claiming, or was it funding the council had won and then distributed? Someone?
Yeah, so it's come from, oh yeah, thanks. It's come from central government's Clean Air Fund. So what happened was there's this pot of money available to every local authority who has to have a clean air zone, and for those who are not having a clean air zone but we're doing non-charging measures. So we had to put in a business case to secure the funding, and ours was based on automatic number plate camera data, which showed how many non-compliant vehicles were regularly coming into the CAS. So we're talking at least twice a week. We then use this data to make the case to say we've got X number of vehicles that will need to be replaced. Yeah, so yeah, it was a competitive bidding process along with the other local authorities. We've been awarded it from central government and now we're distributing it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Hayley. Question for Gareth. At the port, obviously you mentioned at the end there your pre-gate facility that you're looking at. I mean, that sounds fantastic for HGV drivers. I mean, they'd be over the moon, you know, to have some brand new facilities. And you also mentioned about potentially having refueling facilities there for alternative fuels, or perhaps recharging for HGVs. Do you have a time scale in mind for this? When are we talking? Any idea?
I think we're probably hopefully talking within the next sort of 5 years would be our, you know, and hopefully sooner. I mean, obviously a lot of it's down to identifying the correct site, but there has been some scoping work already done because we've been working with Royal Haskellingh on the master plan. They've done a lot of work identifying potential sites. So yeah, so the sooner the better. And obviously some sites are more you know, ready to go than others. So we would like to have it up and running probably in 5 years at the very latest, I would say.
Okay, no, that's brilliant. Thank you. Tanya, question for you. For operators that have perhaps, you know, this is the clean air zone maybe has come as a bit of a shock to them in their local area. They haven't even they're still using older diesel vehicles and they've not yet taken their first steps in looking at new technology. What would your advice be? What would one key bit of advice be for those operators just at the start of their journey, you know, to know which fuels to look at, who to talk to? What would your key advice be?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of a minefield. There's lots of information out there. There's lots of options available. I would say align yourself with an expert sort of partner. And then for me, I mean, there's different organisations that are helping operators on the road to this. So obviously, the freight portal is a great place to start. You can obviously access lots of the information there. Scania have been members of an organisation called Zemo for a number of years as well, where there are different working groups and different sort of specialisms around infrastructure and different fuels available. So yeah, I would firstly find yourself an expert partner and do some homework. And talk to us, obviously, and we've got multiple solutions available. So we've deployed quite a few different technologies in the market now. So we've got experience of what that looks like when it comes to the partners to work with, the vehicles to choose, and the infrastructure needed. So there's lots of work going on now. I would say that a couple of years ago, there was a lot less happening, whereas now we're in deployment mode. So there's lots of case studies and things happening that we can share.
So if people went to their local Scania dealership, they'd be able to access some of that advice and guidance.
Yeah, so we have regional sales teams that I work with and that the central team work with, and we're all up to speed with who we're working with and the projects that we're working on. So it'll probably be a three-party meeting because a lot of this stuff is still future gazing. But I would say contact your local salesperson, and probably me and them would come and talk to you.
Okay, thanks, Tanya. And Colin, obviously, we've heard a little bit about Freight Portal today. Again, you know, what would your advice be to those early stage operators?
I think the first thing is that understand your own operation first, and understand where you're driving, what kind of vehicles you're driving, how you're driving, how far you're driving, and then understand, well, what are the options available to me? And at the moment, it is quite a let's say, a complex picture, and understanding which way to go can be a little bit of a headache. But starting with your base information, right? Am I a back to base operation? Have I got, am I refueling outside of a depot, etc.? Understand where your vehicles are going from, and get that baseline, and then look at what's going on out there.
Thank you. Thanks, Colin. Okay, more questions about the clean air zone itself. One of them, can you confirm, once the legal emission levels are reached, can you confirm that the CAS charges will be removed? So is this a temporary situation for Portsmouth? Perhaps one for you, Hayley?
Yes, it is a temporary situation. We have to demonstrate through monitored data to central government that emissions levels have been reduced and maintained within legal limits. So yes, there is the intention that as soon as we've got the green light from central government, we will turn off the clean air zone. What I would say though is that will only happen as soon as everyone kind of does their bit and reduces the emissions that they're producing. So the more we can work together, the sooner it will be out. And it's all dependent on central government policy as well. The clean air zone is central government policy. There's nothing to say that won't change in the future, but we have every intention to take it out as soon as we can in Portsmouth.
Does your modelling give any idea of a time scale so far?
Yeah, so the modelling shows that we should be compliant with by the end of 2022, and then there is a year of monitoring to show that it's been maintained. So the modelling shows it should be out within a couple of years, but whether that fits with the reality and with government policy is another question. But we're talking short term, within the next few years it should be out.
Okay, thank you. And Stanley, just a sort of fleety question for you. If we've got some sort of specialist vehicles, for example, that might be looking for exemptions for the zone, what should they do? Where is that information, and what should they do?
Clean Air Portsmouth and Portsmouth City Council websites, again, in the same way you'd apply for a grace period if you're replacing your vehicle, or if you're applying for a grant. So it's just you follow the online form, provide your supporting evidence, and then we can process it. And if we think you have a good case, which most people do, then we can put you on the system appropriately, give the appropriate exemptions. But again, if it is within your means to replace your vehicle, that is what our preferred outcome. But again, we appreciate that there's some kind of legacy vehicles which may have very specialised equipment, and it's just not cost effective to replace them.
Okay, thank you. And another one for you guys, actually. Have you worked with the DVSA or any other government agencies so far in terms of trying to engage with operators? Is that something you've done or you're looking to do?
Hayley has.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, so the kind of national engagement's been done through the Joint Air Quality Unit. So they're the government department who are leading on clean air zones, and they are covering the national picture because, as we talked about, it's not just Portsmouth doing this. At a local level, yeah, we will go to the opening of Paper Bag at the moment to get the message out there with operators that the clean air zone is coming. We've also sent out early warning letters. So what we did, we turned the cameras on for a couple of weeks, collected the number plates of the vehicles that drove through, and sent letters out to everyone to say, you're not charged yet, but just to let you know, from the 29th of November, if you come back in, you will be charged. So yeah, we've tried everything we can actually to contact operators, not just the DVSA.
Thank you. Thanks, Hayley. Okay, one here for Gareth. Question for the port. If it could be quite specific, so it could be one that you might want to come back to, but you might know this one. What energy storage devices have you considered to store electricity you've generated? Have you considered flywheels, for example?
So, far as I'm aware, and so I work quite closely with our senior project manager Jerry on all these projects. Jerry is a funding wizard. Like, he goes out and he finds all these grants and he matches them with capital funding at the port. So generally it's when stuff needs replacing, he's been able to sort of fund a lot of that through grants, either European or UK. But yeah, I think far as we've been mainly focusing on battery, I mean, so the Peso battery is the big thing with the experimental side of that, and then well, I think the energy services team don't like calling them dumb batteries, but the other batteries that will go alongside the solar array, they will hopefully then be linked in with the technology that runs that battery. So then we're going to have some more storage capability with those. And then we're also, I think, applying funding for a 1 megawatt flow battery as well, which will help with the cruise operation. So as far as I'm aware, I don't think Jerry has mentioned flywheels, and in my many conversations with him about all the various stuff that's going on. But I can always get clarification. But as far as I'm aware, our main focus has just been battery.
Thank you. Okay, and there's another one actually for you here. Do you see an expansion of multimodal traffic with the Brittany Ferries CMA CGM partnership? If so, what options are there for rail connected services?
So yeah, I mean, it's very much we're talking, you know, with Brittany Ferries and CMA CGM, and I think within Brittany Ferries they're also having their conversations about how they can make this new partnership work. We do see some really big opportunities there for partnership across the port and Brittany and CMA CGM. I mean, there is the opportunity for rail freight facilities at Fratton Station. There was a star siding there. At the moment it's out of operation because South Western Railway did some reconfiguration of the facilities down there, but we are still very keen. I mean, there is a challenge because of the port was built in 1976 along with the M275, and obviously the future then was, the fact is, you know, we do have great motorway connectivity, but obviously we're quite far away from the railway line which runs through the middle of the city. But we are still looking at options, and there may be an opportunity to combine it with a pre-gate. But yeah, we are you know, continue to talk to Network Rail about what options would be available to us. So yeah, so we would love to be able to offer that as an opportunity as well.
Okay, so kind of watch this space. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gareth. Here's a nice open one. You might want to tackle this one, I think, Colin and Tanya. If we come to you, Colin. What do the panelists see the route to decarbonisation, presumably for larger vehicles, being? Hydrogen, batteries, electrified road systems, containers. What's your thoughts on that, Colin?
Oh, quite an interesting question. Even certainly professors that are way above my intelligence level can't figure out what's the future. The thing about hydrogen is that it's always been the fuel for the future for the last 20 years. We would need quite a lot of green hydrogen to energize our road fleet, 3 times as much, because of the energy efficiency losses within the hydrogen, let's say, supply chain for vehicles. So you take that 100 kilowatt hours of renewable electricity and you'll end up with 30 driving the wheels. So that's one issue. The other issue is that battery technology is considered to be moving along at a pace and getting cheaper. So then it's the charging infrastructure that needs to keep up. So we're seeing smaller, let's say, smaller battery powered trucks. Again, probably knowing your, let's say, operations in terms of, are they back to base? How far are you going in a day? What kind of load are you taking? Are you mass restricted or volume restricted? So how much payload are you missing out? So all of those kind of calculations, understanding. Personal view, probably electrification will work quicker than hydrogen. 99% of our hydrogen at the moment is what they call grey hydrogen, so no better, not very good. And lots of industries that need that hydrogen probably is a place to start, where you start decarbonising first, certainly if there's electrical battery-powered vehicles.
Okay, thank you. So there's not sort of one clear solution. It really just depends, doesn't it, on operation and timescales we're looking at. Yeah. But
obviously the R&D programs of all of the OEMs which they're going. So what will be available soonest, how it matches up with your replacement cycles for your vehicles, that will come into play as well.
Thanks, Colin. And Tanya, would you like to add anything to that one?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably spend quite a few days answering this one. The answer, we've probably, we'll probably be out of a job actually. But I would say, I mean, for me, it's not to pick technology winners. So let's try and turn the question round, and how do we get to net zero, or how do we get to carbon neutrality? So I think for us, we try and have everything in the toolbox and look at the landscape that we're trying to operate in. So particularly when it gets down to a market level or a town level or a mission level. So what is the vehicle doing, and what's the best technology to decarbonise that product? So I think we probably need to not pick technology winners, because we've got lots of options now, but maybe focus more on what the goal is. So the carbon reduction. And I think even with diesel technology now, you know, the energy efficiency in diesel engines is improving all the time.
Yeah.
So even just on general diesel efficiency, we've come a long way. So no technology winners, focus on removing diesel from fleets and carbon reduction.
Yeah. No, thank you. And Amanda, as an operator, I guess you guys have been watching the technology as it advances. Have you? You say you're using some electric on your smaller vans. Have you had any thoughts? I mean, have you had any thoughts with your larger vehicles to the future, moving away from diesel? Not got to that stage yet.
No, not really.
That's fair. Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I imagine a lot of people are in that same situation, so still trying to see what's out there and do their research, aren't they?
We're going with cars first, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Right, we've got a few here. One for Stanley. Let's have a look. Is this for Stanley? Yeah, probably. Are the grants available to operators outside of Portsmouth? They may have customers in Portsmouth for deliveries and collections, so enter on a regular basis.
So yes, they are. So I briefly touched on the scoring criteria beforehand. So for example, if we had an operator who operated outside of Portsmouth, but for example, all their contracts were Portsmouth based, they'd be given a higher score appropriately. So, you know, for example, the highest score you can have is you operate in Portsmouth, you service Portsmouth, you're a small business, you know, but you can equally score quite highly if you're a business operating outside of Portsmouth but directly services the city. So yes, you can apply if you're extended to Portsmouth. Perfect. If you're only coming in very, very occasionally, you'll most likely not be eligible for a grant. You know, if you're coming in like once every few months.
But if you're coming in several times a week, then you may well be.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. No, thank you. And then in terms of this one for you, Hayley, in terms of revenue raised by the CAS, how is this allocated and what proportion is used to run the scheme?
Yes, so the way any revenue raised is used, it first goes for operation and maintenance of the CAS. And in terms of proportions, yeah, that's the vast majority of it. It's not a revenue raising scheme.
No.
We're not expecting much income revenue, if any, actually. But if there is anything left over, which I very much doubt, it will be used to deliver the measures in the local transport plan. So that was adopted at full council last month and has all sorts of different things transport related, including some bits and bobs for freight as well in there. So it gets invested back into the city.
Thank you. Someone's actually Stanley back to you. Well, you did touch on this earlier. It says the grant on the portal suggests that it's completed or finished. Is this the case? Are they still available? I believe you said there were still some available, but how can people apply? Someone's asking.
Yes, so there are some available. It is a very small amount. Most of these have become available, for example, because previous applicants who were successful have now found that, for example, one of the vehicles is a specialist vehicle that doesn't need to be replaced, or, for example, they've consolidated. So they previously applied for multiple vehicles, and then now they've replaced one. They've actually decided to consolidate their operation. So it's many of them are grants that were previously allocated but have now subsequently become available again. So that's something we can look into on the website about whether it's saying it's close to finished, but it's still worth putting in an application just in case.
Okay. No, that's brilliant. Okay, well, I think we've covered most people's questions. I think we've covered most of the questions that have been coming in for today. If anybody has got any questions that we've not covered, or you think of something after we end the webinar today, email us through the Freight in the City email address you've got from the webinar registration process. Drop us an email and we will certainly forward that on to the relevant speakers for you. That's no problem at all. So as I said earlier, the webinar will be recorded. It will be hosted on freightinthecity.com hgv.com from tomorrow, so you can go back on there. It's free of charge to access or to share with the colleagues, so please take advantage of that. All I've got left to do is say a really big thank you to all of our speakers today. It's been a really good session, and I hope people are, have got a little bit more knowledge now about the zone and how to get in touch if they want to access any guidance or support. And there's been some really inspirational talks from everybody today, so thank you very much, everybody. Perfect. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks. Bye.